How long did it take for me to learn Braille? For me, it was about 2 years. That's kind of what I read how long it takes for an average adult. Now I do have some vision, so why would I need to learn Braille? Well, if this is your first time here, I have an eye condition that's called Retinitis Pigmentosa. Because of this, my vision slowly decreases over time, and even though I use a screen reader to read things, I do want to read things silently. Not all of the time, but rather from time to time. Also, if I do wait to lose more vision, I'm going to be learning in a more frantic and panicked state of mind. Oh, and real quick, Braille isn't actually a language, it's a code. Just thought I'd clear it up because a lot of people do mistake it for being a language. My first experience with Braille was this little card that I had that had the letters A through Z and a little bit of punctuation, so yeah, I did learn a little bit like that. Nothing too serious, but then I decided to actually step it up. So at first I was really hesitant to just take Braille in the first place, but you know what, I decided to take it at my local blind center, and I'm glad I did. It also helped that I had a great instructor who was very patient with me, and I enjoyed the lessons, so I gladly went week after week to learn little by little. There I started to learn grade 1 Braille, and that is basically the alphabet, the numbers, and some punctuation. There I learned if you learn the letters A through J, there's a pattern that repeats itself actually. Not to get too technical, but K through T is basically A through J just with the dot 3 added at the bottom left hand corner, and then T through Z is just dots 3 and 6 at the bottom added as well. With the exception of the letter W, because the letter W did not exist when Braille was invented. As for the numbers, it's basically the same as A through J, you just put this special symbol, which is dots 3, 4, 5, and 6 before the letter, and it automatically becomes a number. I'll post a couple of links to a couple of videos by two YouTubers, Cayla with a C and Unsightly Opinions. They cover the alphabet in much more detail, so if you want to check those out, links in the description. I picked up on grade 1 very quickly. I was able to start reading very simple words, and I was getting a lot more confident in just being able to read things with my fingers. You're basically retraining your brain to recognize with your fingers what you did with your eyes. It's actually pretty interesting when you think about it. So yeah, the confidence level did go up, and then I went into grade 2 Braille. And that is a whole other story. Let me give you an example. This dots 1 and 5 is the letter E, but also the number 5 if you add the number symbol before it. The letter E by itself, though, also stands for the word every. Drop the E down towards the dots numbers 2 and 6, and now it stands for the word enough. If that drop E is part of a word, either the beginning, middle, or end, it means the letters E-N. Let's go back to the regular E. If you put a dot 5 before that letter E, and all of a sudden that's part of a word as well, that stands for ever. So it can be an entire word, or it can be part of a word. Put dots 4 and 6 or 5 and 6 before that letter E, and all of a sudden that's part of a word as well, but the end. So A-N-C-E or E-N-C-E, like chance or hence. Yeah, so that's part of the confusion of it all. So yeah, that's one example for just a single letter. These are what are called contractions, and there's a lot of them. This is what makes grade 2, well, grade 2. And the thing is, there's over 150 of these. So yeah, when I took a look at a list of them finally, I just thought to myself,
golly.
The reason for these in the first place is actually to make Braille books shorter, because if you wrote everything out letter by letter, character by character, a book would be so much longer. I mean, Braille books are already long, but grade 2 keeps them as short as possible. This is why it took me a couple years to learn Braille. But you know what? A little bit of practice every day did help. But how exactly did I do this in the first place? Well, I had a great instructor at my local blind center, like I mentioned. She got me started with that foundation with grade 1, and then got me started with grade 2. Then I also discovered the book UEB Practice Sentences by an author named Roberta Becker, and that completed the puzzle for me. And this is the actual book right here. It's a Braille book, and actually the funny part is I still have this little post-it where she mentioned start here. So yeah, I just left it there because I just thought it'd be a funny little reminder. I was listening to the podcast Blind Abilities, Roberta was a guest there, and her book sounded convincing, so I contacted her shortly afterwards, and we started talking, and next thing you know, I had her book in my mailbox. I like this book because the lessons are in, well, like how it says, in practice sentences. It went from very easy contractions, slowly started getting more difficult, but still, I went at my own pace, and it felt like I was actually learning quite a lot. It's one thing to feel a single Braille cell, a letter or number under your finger, but when it's done in a sentence, when there's other words and letters next to them, sometimes stuff that you're familiar with doesn't feel familiar under your fingers, and you really have to concentrate, and that really helped me just focus on reading a word or a sentence. I was practicing on a daily basis or near daily basis. I might have read a lot in some days, I might have read a little bit in other days, but still, I did practice whatever I could. Slowly but surely, I started getting more confident, just like how I was getting confident when I was learning grade 1. Fast forward to now, and I've read a few Braille books already. Stuff ranging from something simple like Green Eggs and Ham, all the way to Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's quite the jump, but hey, I'm an astrophysics and astronomy nerd. Sure, I'm making it sound like it was easy, but trust me, it really wasn't. It was quite difficult for me. Trust me, there were times when it got extremely frustrating and I just wanted to quit. It was a struggle and it felt like learning how to ride a bike all over again. That's why I said it took me many months and almost 2 years to fully learn how to read Braille. Also, by no means am I a fast reader. I read quite slow still, but this is why I keep practicing, so I can increase my reading speed over time. But I'm really glad I stuck around with it because I'm so happy that I'm able to just read something that I wasn't able to read before and something that is likely going to help me out in the future. I'm grateful to my local Blind Center's Braille instructor. She was awesome and she helped lay that foundation, which helped me proceed onto grade 2. I'm grateful to Roberta because her book was able to just help me so much and take my learning to the next level. I probably wouldn't have cracked the grade 2 code if it wasn't for that book. And also, thank you to the inventor of the reading and writing system itself, Louis Braille. The fact that the system that he worked on and perfected remains virtually unchanged to this day just shows how effective a system it really is. So that's my story on how I learned to read Braille. As for writing Braille, that can be a video on its own because that's something I really don't know how to do very well. Yes, I do use a slate and stylus, and I also use the Braille screen input feature on my iPhone, but I definitely need practice in writing more. So hopefully my story helped you out a little bit, especially if you're someone who is an adult who is wanting to maybe learn Braille. So what would I say to someone who is wanting to learn Braille but isn't really sure about it yet? Well, first, don't wait to lose more vision because some people sometimes think that, well, I can wait until I lose X amount of vision and then just learn it then. But you don't want to learn in a state of just despair because then it's just going to become, very frenetic and you might not be able to concentrate well. Learn grade 1 if you have to, just to be familiar with how those Braille cells feel under your fingers, just to get more familiar with how they feel in general. And then if you want to move on to grade 2, then be my guest. But like I said, just learn slowly and just practice a little bit over time because that is something that, it is going to take time to learn. So anyway, hopefully this helped and hopefully you like my story. But yeah, I'll see you folks in the next video and I'll talk to you later. All right, take care.